My name is Ashlee Plummer, and I'm a junior studying chemistry at North Carolina State University. I work for the University Tutorial Center, and last semester I had the opportunity to work with the Academic Consulting Program. It's a pilot program that we just started a few semesters ago. And how it works, students in Chemistry 101 generally really struggle with study skills. They come from high school and they had a study plan in high school. They would read their books and practice questions, but that doesn't always work in college, and so they'll get to Chemistry 101 and then they get that first test and they realize, wow, I really didn't know how to study for college and I wasn't prepared for this test, and I thought I was, but I'm really not, so what do I do? In the Academic Consulting Program, we target those students in Chemistry 101 who failed that first test or failed the second test and realize I'm doing something wrong, and they want to make a change. So they realize there's something wrong for one, and they want to make like a conscious decision to change their study habits. And so we attach a flyer to the failing student's grade, to their tests from Chemistry 101. So the professor attaches a flyer, and it's an advertising for this program, the Academic Consulting Program. And so the student has to make the decision to participate in the program and contact Megan, my boss. And they contact her and set up a meeting. Then following that meeting, they meet with an academic consultant, myself, or we had another student doing it, Kyle. And in these meetings, the first meeting, we discuss what did you do wrong on this first test? You made some errors, so where did these test questions come from? Which resources were you not using correctly, or which had you forgotten about, or what mistakes were you making? And then we kind of make a study plan. Okay, made those mistakes, let's not make the same mistakes again. Let's use our resources how we're supposed to and use all of our resources. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes people make, is they just read their book or they just browse their web assign or their homework and they don't use all of it collectively together. And so we make a study plan. In the second session, we kind of check and see, did you really follow that study plan? Because as an academic consultant, there's only so much I can do. Like, I can tell a student from 3 years of college experience as a successful student that you need to do your homework and you need to read your book and work extra problems and try, and it takes time and effort. And the second meeting is kind of, did you put in that time and effort? Did you start studying? Did you start looking over your class questions and your homework? Are you really paying attention and trying hard for these questions? And I don't really give students a quiz. Did you learn those words, that vocabulary? I'm going to find out if you did or not because I'm going to test it. And then normally what happens is the students, they haven't done everything you asked them to, and so it's another push. You have to really work at this. It's not going to come naturally to you. It's not easy to do well in Chemistry 101 coming from high school with study skills that aren't solid. And so the second session, we check on them and then kind of talk about the week before the exam, because by then their second test is coming up. So what are you going to do right before this test? Because what you did last time didn't really work, so let's try something different. And I normally make a day by day, hour by hour study plan with these students. So Monday before your test on Friday, you need to do X, Y, and Z, and then do all this stuff. Don't cram the night before and get a good night's sleep. And then the third session comes after they've gotten that second test grade back. And then we talk about, well, this is how this second test went. Did you see any changes? And normally they all see really positive changes. And another thing I like to talk about in that last meeting is, how can you apply this to your other courses? Because I'm in 300, 400 level chemistry courses, and I see the same things in my classes that they see in Chemistry 101. I was taking a test just last semester, and I opened the front page, and the question was from my homework. And I flipped a page over, and the question was from our textbook. And I flipped the page over, and there's the one my professor did in class. And you see the same things in these upper level courses as you see in Chemistry 101. So getting these skills in as a freshman in Chemistry 101 helps you throughout the rest of school, and that's a really important lesson that I want students to learn, and it's really awesome to see them learning it in their freshman year as soon as they can. And so I've seen some really great things, students going from scoring in the 40s on their first test to finishing with a B in the class, just from this study skills discussion. And it's not tutoring. Like, I haven't taught any students chemistry through this program. It's just a good study skills discussion. And I think the students seeing a mentor who is you know, an upperclassman who's done this before and who knows Chemistry 101 and who takes these tougher chemistry classes, and having them say, well, this is what I did, and maybe you should try it. And, you know, working 1,000 questions doesn't always work for everyone, but I think a lot of times it's just putting in the time and effort. I had one student tell me, I've never studied this much for a test before. I've never studied 8 or 9 hours, and it takes that when you get to college and these tests that cover 4 or 5 weeks of material. Like, you can't learn that in one day, and it takes time and effort over those 4 or 5 weeks of being in class and doing the homework to master the material. And the students have never had to put in effort like that, and it's a good experience to get to mentor someone and help them develop these skills. So I guess one last thing is, like I was saying earlier, there's only so much you can do as someone's mentor. I can't make them sit down and study, and I would send them emails, hey, don't forget to look at, you know, your clicker questions or your WebAssign, and don't forget to read that chapter on whatever that you're covering in class. But it's a decision the student has to make these changes, and it can be frustrating when you get students who know they're making bad decisions as their study habits, but it's hard for them to commit 8 hours to studying, and it's a decision that they have to make, and there's only so much as a mentor and as an academic consultant that I can do. And so I think the program is about learning study skills from a peer mentor who's done it, who's done Chemistry 101 5 times over. I've done SI for it enough. But then it's also about understanding that you have to make mature study decisions, and it's about modeling those decisions and helping students to make those decisions. So I've seen some really great experiences through this program. Some students making some wonderful changes. It's been a really good experience.